You know, I used some fried apples the other day to make some apple pie biscuits. If you haven't watched that video, head on over and watch it. You'll find it in the playlist. But I have some of those fried apples still hanging out in my fridge, so they gotta go. They gotta go. So let's go see if we can't get rid of them. I'm gonna get started making my brown sugar cinnamon apple pizza. You want to start by getting you a pan. You want to put you a pizza crust on it. Mine is a pre-made crust. You can make your own crust if you like. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Next, I'm going to melt about 1 tablespoon of butter in the microwave. You want to take your melted butter. You want to brush it all over your crust. Next, you want to take your brown sugar. Put you about 4 teaspoons in a little bowl. And to that, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. That's about all we had left in that one. You want to get that good and mixed up. Now that it's all good and combined, you're going to take your brown sugar cinnamon mixture and you just want to sprinkle some on your pizza crust. Put however much you want on it. Next, you want to place your pizza crust that has the brown sugar cinnamon on it, and you want to put it in the oven for just a minute or two, not long. While your crust is in the oven, you want to take your apples. Mine is fried apples. If you can use apple pie filling, whichever you prefer. These were in my refrigerator, so I am going to take these and put them in the microwave and heat them up just to get them at least warm. But if your apples are coming straight out of the can, you can skip this step if you want to. We're going to make our crumb topping for the top. You want to take 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of room temperature butter. To that, you want to add 1/4 cup to 1/3 cup. I'm starting with 1/4 cup of flour. You want to start getting that all good and combined. You want to go ahead and add the rest of your brown sugar cinnamon mixture into that. You want to just get it all mixed up together. Add more flour if you need to. Okay, we're ready to assemble our pizza. I have my crust out of the oven. I only left it in there for just maybe a minute. But you want to take your apples, and I'm going to put them on top of my crust. Just put however many you want on your pizza. Now you want to take your crumble topping that you made. It's going to be about the consistency of Play-Doh. It's going to be soft and squishy. You want to take it and start dropping it in just little pieces on top of your apples. I have just a little bit of butter left from where I did my crust. I'm just going to take the rest of this butter and I'm just going to kind of drizzle it over the top. And there you go. It's ready for the oven. We're going to put it in a 350 degree oven for between 20 and 30 minutes. Keep an eye on it. Ovens vary, so you want to keep a check on it. While your cinnamon brown sugar apple pizza is in the oven, you can go ahead and make your glaze. You can make a glaze by using powdered sugar and milk, or you can do what I'm doing. I'm still trying to use up some cake frosting that I had in the freezer. And I have some caramel sauce that came with something else I bought and I didn't use it. So I'm going to melt some of this down in the microwave to be able to pour it over my pizza. And then we'll top that with a little bit of caramel. My cinnamon brown sugar apple pizza has just came out of the oven. Looks really good. It smells good too. I'm going to let it cool for just a minute while I melt my frosting down that I'm going to be pouring over the top as a glaze. Mine cooked for 27 minutes. Okay, I have my frosting melted down. Let's get it put on our pizza. Just drizzle it all over the top. It gets down in all those little nooks and crannies. So this is what it's looking like so far. Now let's put our caramel on. We'll use the rest for something else. So there you have it. A delicious brown sugar cinnamon apple caramel pizza. I'm going to try to stay consistent. So this next recipe is still apple themed. I mean, it is fall, right? It's finally feeling like fall where I live. So hey, I'm going to roll with it and we're going to continue with the apples. But there's only one thing. This next recipe only calls for 2 ingredients. Let's see if I can do it because I've never made this recipe before. I keep seeing it floating around and I need to find out for myself whether this can actually be done and if it's actually any good. Okay, these are our ingredients. We're going to make a 2-ingredient apple cake. I know it looks like more than 2 ingredients here, but in true Jana fashion, I don't have exactly everything that it calls for. So it calls for apple pie filling, which I have here, but it calls for 2 cans. I only have 1 can. So I'm going to improvise and I'm going to add in fried apples with cinnamon instead. I'm going to use 1 can of apple pie filling and I'm going to use 1.5 cans of the fried apples with cinnamon. So 1.5 cans should make it the amount that I need. And it calls for a yellow cake mix. I have a funfetti. I have a vanilla and I have a chocolate fudge, but the vanilla would probably be okay. But I thought this needs to be used, so I'm going to use the funfetti cake mix. I don't think it really matters if it has sprinkles in it. It's just going to make it a little more fun, right? Okay, well, we're going to roll with it. This is what I'm using for our 2-ingredient apple cake. Come go with me and let's find out together whether this is going to work or not. Okay, you want to get you a mixing bowl and you want to take your apple pie filling. You want to get it open, you want to pour it in this bowl. So since I'm using 1 can of apple pie filling and 1.5 cans of fried apples, I'm going to pour juice in all of these fried apples in. That's 1 can. We'll see how close I can get to 2 cans. I'm not going to take as much juice out of this one. I just basically want the apples. Take just a little bit more. Okay, that's about half the can. I'm just going to kind of stir these around and get those two mix together a little bit. Next, you're going to add in your yellow cake mix. Just dump it in. Now you want to get these two just mixed up together. And of course, I'm going to make a mess. If I didn't make a mess, I don't know if I'd be cooking right. Okay, y'all. I can just assume I'm doing this correctly. I'm following the directions. So I know you do want to get all the way down in there and make sure that you don't have any dry cake mix left in there whatsoever, because you know when you're eating it you don't want to bite into a glob of dry cake mix. I don't think that'd be quite as good as what it's supposed to be. So this is what we're looking at. And looking a little strange to me for a cake, but hey, I'm willing to try anything. I was just a little intrigued because I had never heard of a 2-ingredient apple cake. And I don't think I've ever used a cake mix in a cake where I didn't use eggs and either milk or water or oil, butter, something. So, but here we are. Okay, next step. Okay, you want to take a 9x13 pan, a baking pan or a casserole dish. You want to spray it with nonstick cooking spray. Spray mine down pretty good. Now you're going to take your apple cake mix conglomeration and you're just going to put it in your casserole dish. Like so. Had to change over to a spatula. You want to spread it all out into your pan as evenly as you can. And here you go. We're going to put this in a 350-degree oven for 35 minutes. Then we'll check it and see if it's done. I'm going to be just as surprised as y'all when this comes out of the oven because I've never made this recipe before. I've got my 2-ingredient apple cake out of the oven. It looks good. It smells good. You want to cook it till it starts getting brown around the edges and on the top, just a golden brown. There are a couple of optional ingredients which would make this more than a 2-ingredient apple cake, but they're optional. So you could use a teaspoon of cinnamon when you're mixing it up before it goes in the oven. You just would sprinkle your teaspoon of cinnamon in and just mix it all in with it. And you can also use a cream cheese frosting on the top if you want to. Or you could make a glaze, either one. I don't believe I'm going to make anything for the top of mine. I want to try it as is, just to make sure that it is really good, because it looks good, but in my entire life, I have never heard of a 2-ingredient apple cake that uses a boxed cake mix and no butter or oil or eggs or anything. So being me, I'm a little skeptical. That's why I wanted to bring y'all along with me as I'm doing this so we can see together whether this is any good. You're going to want to serve this cake warm, But you can serve it by itself, or you can top it with ice cream or whipped cream, you know, anything like that. And as I said before, you can also put a cream cheese frosting on it or some type of glaze. Okay, I'm actually going to try this, and I think I'm going to get me this little corner piece over here. I'm just going to get me a small piece. I'm actually going to slice through that apple. It looks like it's good and moist. Maybe I need to get a spoon for this. I don't know. I'll try this fork. Let's get it out with this fork. Are y'all seeing that? It looks good. We'll give it a taste. Okay, y'all, so here's that 2-ingredient apple cake. And I want a bite of everything. So there's a little bit of apple, and I want some of the cake part also. So we're going to see if this is any good. That's pretty good. Who knew you could take 2 ingredients and make a cake? But that is pretty good. I can see where adding a little cinnamon to your mixture before you put it in the oven would really jazz this up a little bit. It's good, but it's not too sweet, so that's always a plus. Now, if you wanted something a little sweeter, you could put the cream cheese frosting on or a glaze. That would be perfect to make it more of a dessert type, but this is a nice dessert that's not too sweet for those people who don't like something that's really, really sweet. This would be perfect. This would actually be good for breakfast. So yeah, hey, give it a try. If you give it a try, let me know what you think about it down in the comments. I know this recipe called for a yellow cake mix. I used a funfetti cake mix. As you can see, my little sprinkles are in it. It tastes perfectly fine with the funfetti cake mix. But I can almost guarantee that something even better than the yellow cake mix for this would be a spice cake mix. The spice cake mix mixed with those apples would make for the perfect fall dessert. I'm actually sorry I didn't have a spice cake mix in my pantry, but I bet that changes before the season's out. I bet you I'll pick me up a spice cake mix, and I'll be using this one again, but with a different cake mix. I hope you've enjoyed this video and the different ways that I've used apples in these recipes. Give some of these recipes a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the outcome. I've got a few more ideas for using up some apples, so I'll be making another video soon, I'm sure. But if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, share this video, leave me a comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one.